And joining us for the program is Maniacs, Solid Press TV correspondent, joining us from Beirut, and Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist, joining us from Bristol. Hello, and I'd like to welcome you both to the program. Maniacs, we'll start with you to get the latest. What did you walk away with as far as Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah's speech there?
Well, you can say
Okay, hold on, Mariam. It seems like we have a voice issue. Maybe you might want to disconnect and reconnect. Try to figure it out with our technical guys. I'm going to go over to Tony. Tony, let's see if your voice is working. Your thoughts on Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah saying that the Israelis are really in a tough spot when it comes to morale, and the fact they're lying about everything on all fronts with respect to this conflict.
So their public relations machine is lying to the world. Famously, in over Christmas here in Britain, the Jewish comedian Alexei Sayle said, "They lie, they lie, they lie," and he carried on for a whole minute talking about the Israeli government. And the thing is that they're also lying to themselves. So they're trying to convince themselves of the same lies they're telling abroad. Now, this is really indicating that you know, we're dealing here with a really unhinged government. And Ben Gvir, I noticed, one of the ministers now, he's actually been saluting this Israeli soldier who has killed a Palestinian child in cold blood. Now, this obviously is the sort of thing which is totally inexcusable. War crimes and genocide, you know, the collective punishment of the Palestinians, which is an international war crime. So it doesn't really surprise me that the Israeli government is actually buying its own rubbish and lies. But the fact is that the military is very, very stretched, and of course the morale, whilst they keep posting videos of atrocities, this is supposed to be, you know, what actually keeps the soldiers going. Let me tell you, in any war, that is not going to be positive in terms of morale. When atrocities are being committed, they might try and convince themselves by posting these videos and trying to scare and horrify the world by posting them. But actually what this does is it destroys morale within an army. And this is what we're now seeing many months into this attack, is an army which has lost its way. It's also very important to point out the extent to which Israeli citizenry in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, in West Jerusalem anyway, has been severely criticising its government by coming out on the streets and protesting. And it was interesting to see the use of water cannon by this absolutely beleaguered Israeli government, which has lost its way against its own people. So it's fighting a war not only externally on fronts like in Lebanon and in Gaza, etc. It's also having to fight its own people. That such a government is doomed to fail, and the Israeli people are quite rightly now demanding fresh elections to get rid of the far-right genocidalists now running the country.
Thank you, Tony. And Mariam, let's see if we have you squared away. Welcome back to the program. Your thoughts about Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah's comments and what you walked away with from what he said.
I'm sorry for the technical issue, but well, I think the most important thing is that when we look at Sayyid Nasrallah, how he was very much, you know, decisive when it came to giving a judgment. This war has been lost by Israel. And he clearly said and told Netanyahu that even if you enter Rafah, you have already lost the war, since your main objective was to basically end the resistance or to destroy the resistance. You have not been able to destroy the resistance. Hamas is there, and Hamas seems to be stronger than ever before, since it is the one that is negotiating. It is the main side that the Qataris and the Egyptians turn to when they want to mediate any talks concerning a ceasefire, concerning a prisoner swap, concerning any sort of agreement that would come out of the war. And so clearly he's saying that Hamas has even gotten stronger as a result of this issue. He also mentioned that what we're looking at in South Lebanon, North-occupied Palestine, the Galilee and the Golan Heights is something that is unprecedented since 1948, and even before that, Lebanon was always a state where it was always under Israeli shelling and Israeli crimes. We had the gangs always entered Lebanese territory, killing, destroying, and so on. This is for the first time that we hear from the Israelis themselves that Hezbollah has been able to enforce a buffer zone that is put place in northern occupied Palestine and not in Lebanon. And this is something he also said, that although the Israelis are extremely discreet when it comes to their casualties in the northern front, which is the front with South Lebanon, there's always a slip of the tongue. We heard from the Israeli army's chief, we heard from their war minister. They both mentioned almost the same sentence, that we have a very high price in northern front, which is with Hezbollah. And so this proves that that front in itself has been very significant in supporting Palestine, supporting Gaza, despite the fact that the war has not stopped. But if this army was not in the northern side, basically trying to guard the border, then they would be all taken to Gaza in order to put more force there and fight the resistance. He also seemed to pin hope, and that is something that is new. Sayyid Nasrallah seemed to pin hope on the pressure that is being put by people inside the United States of America on the President Biden, and fear of that might not be elected for a second term as a result of his policies inside Gaza. So I believe that in itself is very significant, that we even hear from Hezbollah and its leader pinning hope on the fact that there could be some sort of change, social change, political change, not only within the Muslim community and the Arab community in the United States, but also from those that are non-Muslim, that are basically standing up and telling Biden, we're not going to elect you, even those who are originally Democrats or with the Democratic Party. You're not going to elect Biden because of this policy on not stopping the war. And he said very clearly that everyone knows, and no one would believe, that Biden could not end this war maybe in 24 hours and maybe even less. With one phone call, perhaps, he can end this war, he can end this suffering, but he chooses not to.
Thank you, Mariam. And Tony, what I walked away with was that it seemed like Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah was saying, for the Israelis, it seems like this campaign of genocide has become exhausting. And we could tell that because a strength does not, you don't exude strength when you kill women and children. You very well know. You do not win ever by killing 30,000 people, 75, and it's not, there's no end in sight yet, and 73% of them women and children. And it's impossible to justify. You very well know they can't do it with their allies anymore. They can't do it, like to your point, with themselves. The initial rage we saw on October 7th, oh, we have to defend ourselves, and we're not going to take this. Well, guess what? It's all turned into shame and fatigue, Tony. But yet, it's very ironic. The bloodlust is still there. Why?
Look, there is amongst a very few. I don't think, to be honest with you, most of the conscripts, the national service people in Israel, in the Israeli Defense Force, I don't think many of them relish the idea of killing women and children. These sorts of atrocities, which have been piling up and piling up literally every day, every week, we see more and more absolutely disgusting, despicable acts of cowardice and atrocities. What happens is they have a kind of poison of their own, which also filters through to all who support them. So as we've just heard in the United States, pressure being put on there. Here in the UK, let me tell you, we've got our opposition Labour Party have now come out in favour of a ceasefire, which is good to see. Over the last couple of weeks, they've been forced to do that. And the ruling Conservative Party are literally falling apart. We have had over the last few days here racism scandals going on within the Conservative Party, and cabinet ministers now openly contradicting the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, in public, and he hasn't got the discipline, and he hasn't got the ability to discipline them, and he's afraid to sack them because he knows they will be very difficult to replace. That's the extent to which confidence is starting to fall apart in the British Conservative government too. And so we've seen that the support for what Israel's doing by the Prime Minister is causing him, I believe, all sorts of problems too, in terms of nobody wants to jump in to that ship. Very few people do. And if they are, they're only fair weather friends. So the Tory party's in its own kind of meltdown too, as these atrocities pile up. And also I think it's important to say something about what is it that actually makes the Israeli Defense Force, Ben Gvir, the far right, the Greater Israel bloc, now running Israel, what makes them tick? Well, I don't believe that they're really following in any way biblical ideas. They are using those as an excuse. What they really are is nihilists. They just want power for its own sake, and this is, I think, what's really, obviously, the most dangerous thing about it is that this is becoming a kind of death cult, that they can only see more killing as an answer to keep Netanyahu out of jail. And they're accelerationists, they're nihilists, they're trying to accelerate the crisis. Some would call them Armageddonists. And as the word gets out about what really makes them tick, more and more people around the world, I think, are waking up to how important it is to stop this and stop it now.
All right, well, thank you both. Stay safe. Thank you, Mariam and Tony. Press TV's Mariam Solid there reporting out of Beirut, Lebanon, and Tony Gosling joining us out of Bristol in the UK. Thank you both. Stay safe, you bet. And viewers, that brings us to the end of this segment of your Press TV's News Review program. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye for now.